Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Driver Suit Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. Over the coming weeks, I've got a few things I want to talk about, but I've decided this week to start off by talking about golf. Now, unless I'm playing some form of it on my laptop, I'm really not that much into golf. I've never played golf, really, but I've been following the LIV PGA situation, and it's brought up some things that have been noticed by others besides me, and I feel the need to respond. Now, it might not seem like a racing topic, but it actually touches on two things that we've talked about on Driver Suit Blog Radio before. Now, before I get into the comparisons, here is some background information on the new LIV Golf Series. The LIV Golf Series is fronted by former PGA Tour legend Greg Norman and backed by Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, under the auspices of the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, or PIF. This PIF has pledged to award $250 million in total prize money to those in the LIV Golf Tournament. Each of the first 7 events will have a total purse of $25 million, with $20 million split between individual players and the remaining $5 million split between the 3 top teams at the end of the week. These events are branded as LIV Golf Invitational in the name of the location. Currently, there are 8 tournaments on the 2022 schedule. After the LIV Invitational London and London, England, the remaining cities and dates are as follows. LIV Invitational Portland, Oregon, USA, July 3rd. LIV Invitational Bedminster, New York. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. July 31st. LIV Invitational Boston. LIV Golf Invitational Boston, Massachusetts, September 4th. LIV Invitational Chicago, Illinois, September 18th. LIV Golf Invitational Bangkok, Thailand, October 9th. LIV Invitational Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, October 16th. And the final event scheduled is the LIV Golf Invitational Miami in Miami, Florida on October 30th. Now, again, there are some events that have taken place because there were 2 things we talked about in recent episodes on the Driver Suit blog that came up. At the start of the LIV Invitational London, which was held near London, England, a number of current PGA Tour members started the event. On Thursday, the PGA Tour announced that all golfers playing in the new Breakaway Series have been immediately suspended and are no longer eligible to participate in further PGA Tour tournaments. In a memo by the PGA, Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan said that part, quote, "As you know, players listed below did not receive the necessary conflicting event and media rights releases or did not apply for releases at all in their petition, and their participation in the Saudi Golf League / LIV golf event is in violation of our tournament regulations. The same fate holds true for any other players who participate in future Saudi Golf Leagues in violation of our regulations." Now, there's 2 separate groups that these suspensions came in from what I've been able to determine. The first group is a group who were suspended and informed that they had resigned their membership as a result of their participation. I'm going to mispronounce some of these names. I apologize in advance. Those individuals are Sergio Garcia, Brandon Grace, Dustin Johnson, Martin Keimer, Grammy McDowell, Kevin Na, Louise Oosthuizen, Turk Pettit, Carl Schwartzel, and Lee Westwood. Now, apparently there's a second group where, from what I'm able to determine, they still have their memberships and those guys are Phil Mickelson, Andy Ogletree, Ian Poulter, Hudson Swafford, Peter Unlian, Matt Jones, and Taylor Gooch. Again, sorry if I mispronounced any names. Now, the tour commissioner was asked if these members would be possibly reinstated. This is what he said in response. You probably have more questions. What's next? Can these players come back? Can they eventually play PGA Tour champions? Trust that we're prepared to deal with those questions and will approach them the same way we have approached this entire process, by being transparent and respecting the PGA Tour regulations that you helped establish. Don't quite know who you is referring to here, but these players have made their choice for their own financial-based reasons, but they can't demand the same PGA Tour membership benefits, considerations, opportunities, and platform as you. That expectation disrespects you, our fans, and our partners. You've made a different choice, which is to abide by tournament regulations you agreed to when you accomplished your dream of earning a PGA Tour card, and more importantly, to compete as part of the preeminent organization in the world of professional golf. End quote. Okay. You notice anything familiar here? Well, the first is that some of these golfers are learning a lesson, namely the same lesson that Formula One and WWE have already learned the hard way, and that is, it's always a bad move to do business with the government of Saudi Arabia. Again, WWE and Formula One have both learned this the hard way in multiple occasions, and I don't see this working out too well for the golfers either. Now, another thing that was going around on various social media platforms, and I can't say that I disagree with this, and that's why I started doing this in the first place, is this bears a striking resemblance to the CART IRL split of the mid-1990s. I mean, it's all there. The upstart organization with lots of money trying to beat out the established organization. There's the splitting of talent between the two, one side or the other. There's the potential harm that this upstart could cause, and the fact that really they don't even have a chance of winning this war, unlike CART. Yes, I'm well aware of the fact that there is a lot of money behind the LIV. But the PGA Tour has all the traditional events and most of the top talent. Outside of a few new ideas, the LIV is just more money with no real clear path to success. If you're gonna do something to lure these golfers away from an organization that many of them don't think is going to succeed long term, it's going to be like CART trying to lure people away from the IRL. CART didn't stand a chance of winning the split, and they knew it. I don't think LIV has a chance of winning. I think to some extent they know it. And it's also going to cause the potential for hurting television deals, audiences, sponsorships. It's just not going to work. We've already seen this before. It's already failed miserably. And I don't get why an organization would do this, especially when the people who have the most to lose probably aren't going to support it. It's just not going to work. I don't see this lasting more than a few years, if that. Okay, so that was a lot to process. Let's take a quick break and I'll come back with my third fan base rant in 3 weeks. And I'm back. As you've no doubt heard over the last few weeks, I've been going on somewhat of a lengthy series of rants about fan bases, their obsessiveness, and how it hurts the fandom in general. I was just going to call last week's episode the end of the rant, but I got to thinking on the bus this week, and it dawned on me that I left out one very specific fan base, and I also left out how it's hurting what they love in general. And I got a lot more to say than I thought I did. So with that, I'd like to revisit the obsessive fan base argument with one specific fan base. Now, in the last rant, I didn't mention them specifically, but one overly excessive fan base that makes it hard to be a casual fan are Formula One fans. While Ferrari is seen by many as some of the worst motorsports fans in existence, many other F1 fans can make it hard to be a fan in the United States, that is. Now, why is this? Well, it's pretty much established that F1 is a Eurocentric racing series with huge fan bases all over the world. It's never really taken off until really recently in the US. Now, many international Formula One fans were justifiably upset when at the beginning of the season there were two different races in the US, Miami and Austin. I agree with this, and I actually think it's understandable because if you look at the numbers, they're very clear on this. Formula One telecasts average 70.3 million viewers worldwide who watch Formula One on TV. This is it should be called households. Now, the U.S. will only account for under 1 million to 1.5, maybe 2 million of those viewers. Now, while it's established that the Miami Grand Prix did capture 2.9 million viewers, it's still nowhere near the level of fan base in other countries. And I'll talk more about those numbers later. Other countries have much larger and devoted Formula One fan bases, and yet if everything works out as I think it's going to, Formula One will have 3 U.S. races by next season. Now, many international fans are anti-U.S., and given recent years, I can't say that I blame them. They think Formula One is better than American racing. They think they're better than Americans. And these are also some of their most devoted Formula One fans. Now, really, I can't argue with this logic because if you look at it realistically, America does not need Formula One. We've never needed it. We're never going to need it, and if it disappears in America, it's really not going to be missed all that much. It won't cause any harm for Formula One to fail in the U.S. For decades, F1 has tried and tried to get a foothold in America, and they failed every single time, again up until recently. Now, there are various reasons people like to put the blame on why Formula One hasn't succeeded in America, but really, nobody has done more to hinder F1 in America than F1 themselves. Why? Well, let's look at it this way. When they were trying to get a foothold in the American market for all those years, Formula One did little, if anything, to attract American fans. There weren't a lot of American teams, manufacturers, or drivers, and they had no presence at all, or even barely little on American television. Formula One never marketed to the U.S. as much as they did other countries, so they never captured the imagination or attention of American fans, despite desperately wanting a piece of the American racing market pie. So I'm going to say something not only to Formula One, but other international sports who want to come into the U.S. and think they're entitled to a piece of the market. You need to learn this about doing business in America. Simply put, it's my sandbox in my yard. If you want to play in my sandbox, you'll play by my rules. You might be the big man in every other house in the neighborhood, but that and $2.50 will get you a soda at the corner store. You want a spot in America, you're going to have to earn it, and just being the biggest anything internationally isn't going to cut it. Our country, our sandbox, our rules, you don't like it, oh well. We can do perfectly well without you. And here's what Formula One and their fans need to learn about how the American racing market exists. First, at the top, you have NASCAR. NASCAR is the biggest and most successful racing sanctioning body in America, has the most fans, has the most well-known drivers, gets the most sponsorship, gets the best TV deals. They marketed themselves perfectly, and it shows. Now, second, you have IndyCar, which, given the split previously mentioned, cost a lot of viewers, a lot of manufacturers, a lot of TV deals, so it's not as popular as IndyCar, but it's still solidly an American tradition. Then in third, you have the NHRA, which is pretty much independent of circle or closed track racing. As drag racing, it's just 2 cars racing to the finish line, or sometimes 4, but it has a very large and very devoted fan base. Then in fourth, you have Formula One, you have IMSA, and then you have most of the other racing series in America. They do get viewers, but on a Sunday afternoon, who's going to get the big numbers here? Of course, the established group. Now, as I said before, the Formula One Miami Grand Prix got 2.9 million viewers. which sounds impressive, but when you have a Sunday afternoon when there is no real competition on a broadcast network, when your main competition is on a cable network, it's really not surprising. And if you want to talk about, oh, well, it's going to be that going into Austin. No, it isn't, because there's 3 little letters that'll keep ratings down. And those 3 letters are NFL. Even the best watched race in the United States cannot hold a candle to the ratings that an average NFL telecast generates. You're not going to beat the NFL, and you'd be an idiot for even trying. So, how would Formula One go about getting a fan base? Well, it's not going to be quick and easy. Because if you can play by the rules and attract a fan base, you can be very successful in the U.S. For decades, association football or soccer was not really a thing in America. It was pretty much non-existent. Maybe you'd play it in gym class every once in a while, but there wasn't, American professional soccer that lasted long. But between hosting the World Cup in 1994 and having very successful endeavors in international, including the Olympics and the World Cup, you have a lot of young kids who grew up watching soccer, loving soccer, and playing soccer, so now American soccer is a thing. But this didn't happen overnight. This took years and years and years. So if you want to have a solid foothold in the U.S., F1 needs to learn that you got to play by our rules if you want to play in our sandbox. And if you do play by our rules in our sandbox, there's a good chance you can succeed. But I'm not sure that they want to, though. I think they're so entrenched that they're the best in everything that they don't have to. And, well, you've tried for decades. You are on the cusp of actually making it. Play by our rules, and maybe we'll be able to work something out. I really hope they can, because I am a Formula One fan, but you got to start playing by our rules. Okay, I am officially done with rants for the while. I'm going to also mention that I'm going on vacation in July, so I'm not going to be talking about current events or anything. I've got something planned that I've been working on for the past few days for what's going to happen during that time. But we'll talk more about that later, and I'll figure out something for next week. I'm Dave Firestone. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you once again next week on Driver Suit Blog Radio.